screen and I'm waiting. Okay, and let's just give it a second here.
Hmm.
I need a fancy countdown clock. I really do because we're waiting and waiting and waiting. And oh, LinkedIn is up. We are streaming. So let me put on the music. Let me make sure everything is ready. Maestro is ready. We're going to play our opening music and you're going to dance with me. Okay, here
You
we
bet.
go. You ready?
Yeah.
Come on, Mark.
So you wanna be?
So you want to? I wrote the words,
Really? That's a good beat. Yeah.
and my friend wrote the music, and he sings.
Really?
Serge Hostin. He's a musician in Paris.
Good.
Looking real.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Fine. Come on, let me see those shoulders move. You gotta dance.
So you
Here
wanna
we go. Drum roll.
Guitar solo.
There we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is We Dish. Two, T-O-O, all in caps, Saucy Dame. I'm the Saucy Dame and my new best friend, my new cool dude. He is cool dude number 37. I hope he's not
I
upset by
love that
that.
number.
His name is Mark. Today he's Mark M. In real life, he's Mark Morton, but we
Yep.
don't use last names. So I hope you're well, Mark, and I'm delighted to have you. Are you ready for me to introduce you appropriately?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, here we go. And if there's anything that's not correct or that you want to add more, you'll have that chance when I'm done. So here
Okay,
we go.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
You may know us well, Bonnie D and Mark M. Morton, too. Seasoned in life, and we love what we do. From socials channels, virtual embrace, we love sharing insights in our savvy people space. Here on We Dish, we're here to play, lightening up life in our unique and fresh way. Welcoming Mark M., a truly cool dude. Here's my rhyming intro. He'll add more with attitude. The story of Mark M., a cool dude to his core. Bonnie D welcomes Mark, who is sure to tell us more. Here we go. Mark M. arrived on a cold December 31st eve. An almost New Year's baby, he gave his parents a reprieve, a tax deduction prize for all of 1963's cheer. Though present for barely a day, a benefit loud and clear. On Saskatchewan's plains where flat horizons extend, Mark braved winters -40 and summers scorch and bend. A barren canvas of earth-shaped resolve in his core, from stark fields of grain his spirit learned to soar. Youngest of 8 birth children in a household that grew vast with 70 fostered souls over 40 years, the stories did amass. Lessons of love and compassion from parents who answered the call fed Mark's heart with empathy, his spirit sturdy, integrity tall. Not keen to wrangle big tractors or chase livestock about, Mark found solace in books so his imagination could sprout. By dictionary pages and encyclopedias of old, his mind wandered free where adventures could unfold. From 1981 to 85 in Regina's halls, he learned physics first kindled wonder, then English flames soon burned. At Toronto, Mark pursued a PhD in literature's glow. 16th century texts fueled his passion where poetic echoes flow. A year teaching on the French slopes above Nice's azure shore. Mountain life proved uneasy. Mark yearned for plains once more. So on to Winnipeg, where he spent 12 bright years writing books on culture, his columns bringing cheers. At Winnipeg U, he found his voice with open air. On CBC, he spoke of language, culture laid bare. He co-founded a writers' fest that celebrated the pen. Mark's imprint on that city lives on in hearts since then. In 2001, love beckoned. Mark beckoned him to Ontario's grace. With Melanie so dear, Mark found his truest place. Next, at Waterloo's Teaching Center, he nurtured the eager mind, blending scholarship with kindness. In his wisdom they would find. Adopting 4 children, his family's joy grew bright, raising Brandon, Leica, Ruxana, and Matthew by night. Though writing took a hiatus, Mark's voice still found a stage. In Gastronomica's pages, his columns were penned with sage and maybe rosemary in time. Now, half-time at his post, Mark reignites the writer's fire. The Headmasters emerges, a YA novel to inspire. Cupboard Love's 3rd edition, a culinary lexicon rare. Mark chases wonder in language, life's marvelous fare. Passionista of learning, reading, and lens in hand, Mark now studies tongues of old, Anglo-Saxon, French, and Latin stand. Photography of the mundane reveals life's beautiful core. Mark Morton's journey continues. There's so much more to explore. What'd you think?
I really like that. That's quite amazing. Um,
I'm
and it's
glad.
accurate. It's accurate. The 70 children that my parents fostered, like they adopted three kids, but they also, as you said, they fostered 70. I didn't meet them all because they sort of started to do that more after I went to university, and they had more of an empty home, and my siblings had headed out on their own as well. So yeah, they did that for about 45 years, fostering kids.
Well, I want to finish the end of this opening rhyme. I'm glad you mentioned that because that is an unusual statistic and it needed to be explained. And
Mhm.
you have a very vast family, probably in many, many places. So we're here now on We Dish, chatting on life's score, talking about score, culture, music, food, and oh, so much more. Join us live or on demand, day or night. We won't be here. What do you think on demand is for? And enjoy our dishing with shared delight. Meet us for real in our live streaming glow. Comments are welcome. Just play nice. We know who you are. We know. We dish to Saucy Dame and Cool Dude too. Bonnie D and Mark M. Dishing on life's fun. Pour vous. A little French thrown in. So now it's complete. I will tell Sylvie that you enjoyed. I sent your bio and thank you for that long chronology. It was wonderful. And then we take your bio and we turn it into this multiple stanza rhyming. I don't call it a poem, it's a rhyming bio. And
Mhm.
then I go back, Mark, to the truth of what you sent and I compare each stanza. And I
Mhm.
say, does it represent? Am I happy with the rhymes? Am I happy with the cadence? And sometimes I'll go back to Sylvie and I'll say, I wasn't too happy with stanza number three. What do
Mhm.
you think? And
Mhm.
sometimes I'll just say the heck with it. I do poetry on my own. I don't need her. And
Mhm.
I'll
Yeah,
just change it up. So I'm very, very pleased that you like that. So
yeah,
anything else you want? Tell us a little bit about your books, Gastronomica, The Headmasters, Cupboards Love,
sure.
Passionista. When did you start writing? It was in there, but give us what
Yeah, yeah,
sparked you to become an
yeah.
author.
So after I finished my PhD, I went to France and taught there for a while, and then I came back to Winnipeg, which is sort of above Minnesota. Um, and that's when I started writing. My first book was a book of the etymologies, the origins and histories of food words. So, where does avocado come from? Where does pasta, spaghetti, vermicelli. Vermicelli, for example, comes from an Italian source and it means little worms.
Oh,
Burrito actually means little burrow, those donkey-like
yeah, yeah,
animals.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so that was my first book called Cupboard Love, A Dictionary of Culinary Curiosities. That's actually the one, there was a second edition of it about 5 years after the first one came out. That was 1996, I think. And now, just a few weeks ago, the third edition has come out. And yeah, I'm really pleased with it. Um, Looking back, because I wrote it like 30 years ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I had to reread it again for the publisher to see if there were any mistakes, and I realized I couldn't write it now. I just don't have the stamina because I remember writing this book, and I focused on it for like 14 hours a day for 8 months, and I'm
How
61
did you
now. I just
decide?
couldn't do it.
How did you decide what to put in it? I have to ask. 14 hours
Oh
a day
yeah,
is mass. How did you decide what foods to cover, what cultures, what nationalities? I mean, did you
yeah.
just say, okay, I'm going to do all Italian food today and all Chinese food tomorrow and French food? How did you do that?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. And I was extremely lucky because what happened just as I came up with this idea of writing this book was the Oxford English Dictionary. That's the one when it's all the volumes, it takes up about 4 feet of space on a
Mm-hmm.
shelf. It just came out in compact CD form. And so I bought it. It was expensive, as it was a few $1,000s, I remember. But because I had that, I could now search for any. So I searched for all the entries that had the word food in it or that had the word drink in it, things like that. And it was amazing because it came up with words that I didn't know. none of the people that I know knew because they were usually obsolete by now. So a word like uh, Lopkin, for example. Lopkin is the old word for lobster. Um,
Oh, used to be one of
things
my
like that.
favorites.
So yeah, I came up with a list of probably about 10,000 words, and
Stop,
then
stop,
over
stop,
time I
stop. You came up with a list of, they say to comedians, don't step on the laugh. Don't step on the what? Seriously, Mark.
yeah
10,000. And was this a digital list or was this in your
yeah
head or?
it was digital, and then I whittled it down to about 1,000. So there's 1,000 entries in Cupboard Love, and yeah, I don't know how I did it. To be, I'm not saying that like, oh, I'm so great. It's like I'm saying, oh, I've lost that ability, as I've aged and my knees start to
Are you
hurt, things
sure?
like that.
Oh, forget the knees. Are you sure you've lost the ability? You're on several of my shows. You're still a sharp guy. I'm
My memory has changed. I would say that,
okay.
and I like to explore with my imagination. Or so. So the last book that I wrote was a young adult novel, a dystopian novel,
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoyed writing that. In between those two books, I wrote another one. Called "The End: Closing Words for a Millennium," and I bet
Oh.
you and the listeners, viewers can guess when that was published in
Mm-hmm.
1989, of course,
Mm-hmm.
because people were interested.
Y2K.
Exactly,
Y2K. It was all
Y2K.
going to end,
Yeah.
right?
And what that book did, it looked at how people at the ends of previous centuries wrote about or celebrated or worried about things going back to about 1599. Can't go back further than that because people didn't really use the calendar. Like they wouldn't say, uh, oh, I was born in 1432. They'd say I was born in the 18th year of King John, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was fun to write and research. And then January 1st, 2000 came, and everybody lost interest in it.
Well, we survived, and the clock survived, and the calendar
Yeah,
survived.
yeah.
I wrote my first romantic comedy play, which I ended up producing it with community actors on Long Island, and I'll send you the Vimeo link. It's on my,
Mhm.
but I produced it in my TV studio, and it ran on Long Island for quite a while. And it was about a couple approaching Y2K.
Mm.
And his mother said to him, "You're single already. Find a girl already. The world could end. What's going on here? I want grandchildren." But then it took place in different years, different blocks of years,
Yeah.
three parts in there. There were three scenes in different years. And he had become a programmer. He was a programmer who
Mm.
was finding an amazing amount of work, Mark,
Yeah.
working for companies that needed the Y2K
Yeah.
patch, if you will,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that they would be able to have their systems run and their calendars and their
Hmm.
clocks and all that. And he made a
Hmm.
fortune and they got married, took a
Yeah.
vacation. So
Yeah.
so that was one of my themes was bridging them just before
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
through Y2K and then 10 years later. So thank you for I'll
Yeah.
send you the play. I
Yeah.
think you'll
Yeah.
enjoy it.
And it's kind of a curious coincidence that I was born on December 31st, at the very end of the year. Um, I don't know. Maybe that's what prompted me to write that kind of book. I also wrote another book about the origins and histories of words about love and sex, and another nonfiction book.
Can I get a copy of that one? Do you have an ebook of that one?
Sure, I can send you a copy.
I would like
Yeah,
that very
yeah,
much.
yeah.
Now
It's
hold on, hold on. You're telling me, I have to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
no, no,
You're
no.
telling me that your books are you enjoy the research. You
Yeah,
and
yeah. I love learning about things.
that's
It's a
wonderful.
blessing, to be in a situation. I'm privileged, I live in Canada. I'm had great parents, smart enough to get a job. So I'm very, very privileged to have that time and opportunity and access to things, to learn about things. Like I love watching YouTube documentaries and videos, and there's
Mhm.
so many really, really, really good ones. Um, yeah, yeah. I feel like I've been born in a very fortunate time, or lived through a very fortunate time. Yeah, yeah,
I haven't heard an author express it quite this way. Of course,
yeah,
everybody writes different
yeah.
genres and different styles, but I appreciate that. Your quest for knowledge, obviously,
Hmm.
is the
Yeah,
underpinning, I think, of at least the first couple of books that you've written.
yep.
The fact that you put together a list of 10,000 food terms and culled it down
Yeah.
or boiled it down. Can I use a food term? Boiled it down or reduced it.
Reduced it.
It's a
Yeah.
reduction. It's a wordless reduction to 1,000. That in itself is impressive. And
Hmm.
most people, it's incomprehensible that there would even be that many. If you told me
Yeah.
you have found 1,000 words and you got it down to the top 250,
Yeah.
I'd still be in awe. I'd
Yeah.
still be, wow.
Do you want me to read one of the shorter
Yes,
entries from it? Okay. Let me
yes,
have
I
a look
love it.
here. I just got
Yeah,
to change
please.
glasses.
Sure.
Oh, they're different lengths. Some are just a couple of sentences. Some are a
Yeah,
few
I'd love to know
paragraphs.
some. Sure. I'm going to put
Uh,
you on full speaker screen so you'll
yeah.
have your time there. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. That's probably a good one. Um, a second here. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to read this one. Broccoli. It's the origin of where the word broccoli came from. So why do we eat carrots but not broccolis? The reason is that English acquired the word broccoli in the late 17th century from Italian, and in Italian, broccoli is already plural. The singular form is broccolo, which in turn is a diminutive of the word bracco, meaning stalk or shoot. The word broccoli, therefore, means little shoots, an apt description of the vegetable's appearance. Further back in history, the Italian bracco evolved from brachus, a Latin adjective meaning pointed. This Latin origin means that broccoli is related to several other words that also derive from brachus, including brochette, which is a skewer that's used in kitchens, and brochure. And that brochure was so named because brochures were originally stitched together with a pointed needle. So there's 1,000 entries like that. And
Wow.
each one I've tried to, well, each one is interesting in itself, but it's my goal to make them even more interesting, and also to bring humor
Mhm.
into each one. So a lot of them, I find rereading them, I find them funny still.
That's that's cool. It's
Yeah.
cool to read your own work after the fact. And I'll tell you a little story. I lived in Durham, North Carolina, and
Mhm.
for some reason I just decided to start something called a cold reading salon. And I
Yep.
don't know if that's apparent, but I printed out free copyright free scripts. Roald Dahl had
Yep.
scripts that you could print from the internet. I didn't
Yeah.
steal anybody's copyright.
Hmm.
And 25 people signed up. So I printed out scenes that were monologues, dialogues, or scenes with three or more people.
Hmm.
And I put them on a table. People signed up and I put them on a table. I said, okay, everybody, just walk up. And on the front page, I printed it all out. I was
Hmm.
going through ink like crazy.
Hmm.
And I printed out on the front page, whether it was a monologue, a dialogue, or a scene, how many people and what types of characters, whether it was a
Yeah.
comedy, whether it's serious. And I said, just take something off the table, pick something, and take 5 minutes to read it. If you're
Hmm.
in a group, just you'll pass this, you'll sit there together and you'll pass this along or
Hmm.
along. And then I said, okay, who's ready? And one person raised their hand. I said, come up and read your scene on book any way you want.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we all just sat around in a great big circle. We had a big ballet dance studio, and it was
Hmm.
empty, and they had mirrors and a bar and BARRE
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
pull-up chairs and very comfortable chairs. And we just enjoyed this person's interpretation.
Yeah,
Sometimes they
yeah,
read it funny, sometimes they read it in a fake voice,
yeah.
whatever it was. Well, getting to the point here, at one point, I had slipped in a scene from one of my romantic comedy plays. And I just stuck it in, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
needed 25 things for people, so
Hmm.
okay, that was
Hmm.
fine. Well, somebody picked it, and they got up and they were reading this scene, and I'm hysterical laughing. It didn't dawn on me that it was mine, Mark. And I said, "That's really funny." And then I said, "Show me," and they held it up. I was like, "Oh my God, that's mine!" And to me, that was the greatest compliment to
Yeah,
me of the success of what I. So you read your Gastronomica and you say, that's really good and
yeah,
that's really funny
yeah,
and that's you have succeeded,
yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah. That's you're totally right. And I've given readings from my books, and I love it when the audience starts to, I think, sometimes roar with laughter. It's
Oh
it's very
yeah.
gratifying. I mean, because to me, um, things I like in life, a lot of things I like in life, but learning and laughter are definitely two of them. And if you can
Oh,
combine them, that's great. And
I,
maybe love. Put
I,
the other
I
another
think I
L
know
word.
you. I think I know you from a previous life. Learning and laughter and love.
Yeah.
Is there anything better? Is
Uh,
there anything else?
mm,
I don't think so.
libraries?
No, that's learning. And sometimes that's laughter, and sometimes that's
Yeah,
love
yeah,
too. Depends who you meet in the library.
yeah, yeah,
Learning laughter and love. Isn't that
yeah.
funny? On my Monday night show, Read My Lips, Cool Conversations with Creatives. Have you been on my Monday show, The Creative?
Yes, I think
You've
so.
been on
Yes,
that.
yes.
And we do a shout out. Everybody puts up their hand in the shape of the letter
Yeah.
L. We do a shout out to LLL. It's lovely, lanky Laura Legs, our most loyal listener. And I say, hello, LLL. And so LLL is a lovely, lanky Laura Legs. That's four. Anyway, now it's going to have to be learning, laughter, and
Mhm.
love.
Yeah, yeah. And,
Mark,
and that reminds me, I'll just tell you this little
this is a
anecdote.
watershed moment in history here. I didn't count on this. Go
But
ahead.
you know the acronym LOL.
Yes.
Once when I was first sort of learning about Facebook and stuff like that, one of the things that appeared in my feed was somebody saying, you know, my father passed away, something like that. And so
Oh,
I replied with LOL
LOL. Lots of
because
love.
I thought it was lots of love. And of course, it isn't it. Laugh out loud. And oh, I felt so bad, you know?
Talk about shorthand and talk about lexicon, talk about
Yeah,
etymology, talk about language understanding and sharing. Yeah, okay,
yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I think a
Um,
lot of people made that mistake back in the day.
Well, that's comforting. Another book that I wrote when I was younger was called
We
Cooking
were
with
all
Shakespeare.
younger, honey. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was called Cooking with Shakespeare, and it was about food culture in 16th century England. That too was
No.
amazing. Because in some ways they're very similar to us,
Mhm.
in some ways very, very different. Like, for example, they didn't eat lobster because lobster was considered like the bug of the sea. So it was only the very, very poor people who would eat lobster.
Oh dear. Oh dear. And we had to be very well to do to eat it when I was
Yeah,
growing up.
yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't cheap.
A-
Interesting.
And
Interesting.
aristocrats, you know, they had these huge fireplaces where their servants would cook, and they would have spits, you know, with venison or something turning on it. And instead of having a person turning the spit, they had these little conveyor belts, and dogs
What?
would be on it, and the
What?
dogs would be walking and
No.
making the spit go around. Yeah,
No.
yeah, yeah.
No.
It's true.
Dog lovers would have really rebelled on that one.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, you're talking about the mice spinning the wheel, the rat race.
exactly. Yeah,
Oh, dogs were
yeah.
spinning the wheel for the spit.
Yeah.
And the word spit, is that one of your books? I mean, the idea that a
Yeah,
spit,
I can't remember the origin of that. I don't, you know, that's a really good one because is it related to the other spit, you know, saliva?
yes,
I don't know.
yes.
I'm gonna find out as soon as we're
I
done.
wish you would.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold you to that. That's very important. I want to segue to music. I want to
Yeah.
know I hope you're happy to be cool dude number 37. I hope that doesn't bother you that you're, up there on my list, but I started this about 6 months ago and I found out that I'm doing a cool dude show about one every 5.67 days now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
you got to 37, but
Yeah.
I'm really happy to have you here. You made
Yeah.
the top 100, so there you go. So, listen, let's go to some music. Do you have some songs that
Um,
define you, describe you, enjoy you, make you happy? What have you got?
yeah. Well, first of all, I'm very happy with 37 because I love prime numerals, and 37 is a prime numeral.
Seven's my
And my
lucky
age
number.
right now, 61, is a prime numeral. So
I thought you were going to say
I
you're
like those numbers.
37. I would have taken that.
Thanks. Um,
You're
yeah,
doing
one of the
great.
songs that I really, in fact, I was playing it this morning, not even thinking about this show yet, but I play it fairly often. Is "Take a Walk on the Wild Side,"
Oh yeah.
and by who's it by now? I can't remember now. It's one of those things that's just slipped my mind.
I'll look it up
Um,
for you. Take a walk
hmm,
on. Let me look it up on my
yeah,
phone.
yeah,
We'll take pictures afterwards. Let me get it on the phone. You
and
keep
it's
talking and I'll find it for you.
I find it sort of a very cool, not in the sense of cold, but it's just
Take a walk
something
on the
cool
wild
and
side. Lou Reed?
Lou Reed, yeah, yeah, yeah,
There
of
you
course.
go.
I
Okay.
love that song.
Here he
And
is.
it tells a story. Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Um, and it was, I think, ahead of its time. Well, very ahead of its time because, it's talking about someone who is transgender. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, yeah. So that's a song I really, really like. Take a walk on the wild
And
side.
by the way, you have said a boot twice, and you told me
A
that
boot.
in your
Have I
part of
really?
Canada, you don't a boot. Very subtle, but I caught it. I
Yeah.
got that Canadian.
But
Go.
I haven't said a yet at the ends of sentences.
No, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, hey. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting you, but you're
No,
so
no.
charming. You're so charming. All these thoughts are coming to mind. Yes, we're having a good time. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Okay, what's next?
And the next song that I really, really like, I guess it's an older one too. My dad loved Nat King Cole. Um,
Oh, who
he,
doesn't?
yeah, I know, what a voice, eh? But again, this is a little aside here. He didn't like Frank Sinatra, even though Frank Sinatra and Nat King Cole were sort of the same,
Why? Why?
because he thought Frank Sinatra was mixed up with gangsters, so he wouldn't
Oh,
listen to.
it wasn't the singing style. It
No,
wasn't the phrasing. He's famous for his
no,
phrasing. It was
yeah,
it was
yeah.
his life. His
Yeah.
life.
So I grew up listening to probably every Nat King Cole song that he sang. One that I think my favorite one is well, this is the title, Love. There's a period after each letter, Love. Um, and I just his voice is just so it's like being surrounded in a warm blanket,
Like
such a
velvet,
beautiful
velvety.
voice.
That wasn't L is the way you look at me. Oh,
Yes,
and
yeah,
very, yeah, okay.
yeah,
Love, right? He spelled the word. I remember the
Love.
song. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, Nat King Cole, I think he's one of my favorite. My third one, I think, would be well, anything by Robert Johnson. And he was from the 1920s,
Hmm.
one of the first blues singers, and he only recorded maybe 18 songs or something like that. And he plays the guitar, and of course, all the recordings are from the 1920s, so they're kind of scratchy and things like that. But he was such a pioneer of the blues, and I really like listening to the blues. There are certain kinds of blues. He didn't live long, and not a lot is known about him.
I'm
But
not that familiar with him. Where would I find his music?
well, it's on. You could stream it on anything. Yeah,
Okay, Robert
yeah, Robert
Johnson. Any
Johnson.
songs I would recognize the names?
Well, he has one. I think it's called The Crossroads, and it's sort of about meeting the devil, and the devil, sort of making a deal with the devil. Um,
How about this? Is that
that's
Robert
him.
Johnson?
That's him. And I think
Okay.
I might be wrong, but I think that's the only photograph of him.
He lived from 1911 to 1938
Yeah,
in Hazelhurst, Missouri, and passed away in Greenwood,
yeah,
Missouri.
yeah.
Very
Not a long life.
interesting.
Yeah.
No, blues singer, guitarist, songwriter who redefined the Delta blues style. Slide guitar, boogie, and walking bass lines influenced generations.
Hmm. Hmm.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm
Yeah.
learning a lot from you, that's for sure.
Yeah. 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 And the other thing about Robert Johnson, I think, is that he would have had no idea that he has become like this icon of the blues.
No,
You know,
no.
it's that's astonishing. Same with people like Emily Dickinson. In her lifetime, she only published a couple of poems. She had no idea that after she died, somebody would come along and collect her 600 poems, and that she would become again one of the towers of American poetry.
That's a good word.
Yeah,
Towers. I was going to say icons.
yeah.
Towers. That's such a picture word.
Hmm.
Thank
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
Oh, I didn't know I was going to get a lesson in language and etymology and cooking today.
Well, I love her poetry. Can I? I'll see if I can
Please,
recite one of my favorite ones.
please do.
It's because it's so simple. It's something like, a bird came down the walk. He did not know I saw. He saw a something worm and ate the fellow raw. Anyways, and that's all I can remember. But then the poem is not long, but it moves towards this beautiful ending. Um, oh man,
I'm looking it up for you. Keep
yeah.
talking.
Why don't we look it up? Because it's not long, but it's such a great poem. Like she wrote a kind of poetry that nobody else was writing
Here it
at that
is. Let
time.
me get it for you here. Emily Dickinson's poem "A Bird Came Down the Walk,"
Yep,
originally published in 1891. I'm going to come
yep.
back on the screen here. I was checking off screen. A bird came down the walk. He did not know I saw. He bit an angle worm in halves and ate the fellow raw, and then he drank a dew from a convenient grass. Let me see if I can get this. It's very small. Here we go. Okay. And then he drank a dew from a convenient grass and then hopped sidewise to the wall to let a beetle pass. He glanced with rapid eyes, then that hurried all abroad, that looked like frightened beads. I thought he stirred his velvet head. Like one in danger, cautious, I offered him a crumb, and he unrolled his feathers and rode him softer, ROWED, rode him softer home. Then oars divide the ocean, to silver for a seam, or butterflies of off banks of noon leap pash, pla, plashless as
Flashless.
they
Yeah.
swim.
Yeah. I just love that. She starts with such concrete, there's the bird, there's the worm, the
Yeah.
angleworm, and then the way it moves to and becomes so abstract. Then oars divide an ocean to silver for a seam. Oh, it's just astonishing poetry.
And plashless is
Yeah,
like
flashless.
splashless without the
Yeah,
S. That's why I couldn't say it.
exactly. Isn't that genius? Like most people would have used splashless, but
Yeah,
flashless, is
splashless.
is such a nice word there. Yeah.
Why not make up your words? Any other songs?
Um,
I have a couple of mine, but I want to know you
yeah.
have any more. You got any more?
Ooh, well, there's a band from Winnipeg called oh no, no, I'll talk about a different one. There's a band from Toronto called the Rio Statics, which I just love. And they probably are not very much known outside of Canada.
Rheostatics, like
The,
rheostat?
yeah, just like the rheostat, the mechanism. And I knew I guess knew and still know the lead singer. And they write about Winnipeg a lot. Yeah, that's them. Yep, yep. And I don't know how I would describe their music. It's rock with a little bit of surf influence. But they're really, really good. And yeah, yeah. So
Very
I, I
cool.
I I listen to a lot of Canadian music, I guess, and
Hmm.
there are so many Canadians that have done well, like Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell actually
Oh, be
was
still
born
my
and grew
heart.
up
Yes.
um, near Crillman, Saskatchewan, where one of my sisters lives. And
Hmm.
her husband, I think, is related distantly to Joni Mitchell. Um, yeah.
Did
So
you see Joni Mitchell last year? I think it was last year on one of the award shows, and she came out, I think, in a wheelchair, and
yeah,
she had had a stroke, and
yep.
she learned to speak again, and she
Hmm.
went through one of her songs, and
Yep.
it wasn't a dry eye in the
Yep.
crowd or on the TV
Yeah.
watching audience. I'm a big fan of her music, and one of my favorites is "They Paved Paradise and Put in a
Oh,
Parking
isn't that
Lot."
great? Yeah.
Big Yellow Taxi. Yeah,
Yep.
yep, absolutely. Brilliant
Yep.
writer and singer.
Yeah.
And
Like a poet with music.
yes, absolutely. Well, I'm going to
Yeah.
read you some of my songs. I do
Yeah.
these on every
Please.
show because this is the discography of my life. So I'll try to mix it up a little bit. Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi
Mm.
Lauper and
Hmm.
Girl on Fire by Alicia Keys. I added that one. You Don't Own Me by Leslie Gore and I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar by
Yeah.
Helen Reddy. I think she's Canadian.
Hmm.
Me and Bobby McGee, Janis Joplin's
Yeah.
anthem, Freedom's Just Another Word for Nothing Left to Lose. I
Yeah.
think I've embraced that without even realizing it most of my life. Hit Me With Your Best Shot, Pat Benatar. Respect,
Hmm.
RESPECT, Aretha
Hmm.
Franklin. I Will Survive,
Yeah.
Gloria Gaynor. And New Attitude by Patti LaBelle.
Hmm.
That's telling the story. I Feel Better When I'm Dancing by Megan Trainor. I've been a dance teacher and a dancer for most of my life. I've Had the Time of My Life by Bill Medley from Dirty Dancing. And then I am a big fan of Donna Summer, the disco queen
Hmm.
who passed way too soon,
Hmm.
tragically. I think she got cancer and she was way too
Hmm.
young. And Mark, her discography is my story. First
Hmm.
of all, she works hard for the money.
Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
Hot stuff, although I've never been a streetwalker in San Francisco, but I've been called hot stuff many, many times. So we'll leave that one on the table. On the radio, I've been doing this for about
Oh
25
yeah.
years.
Yeah.
No More Tears, Enough is Enough, Enough is
Hmm.
Enough is Enough. I think that was a duet. I think it was Streisand.
Uh-huh.
Beautiful song. Last Dance, Last Dance.
Yep.
Love
Yep.
that one. I still dance in the kitchen now. I don't teach anymore. I Feel Love, which had that
Oh,
wonderful,
that disco
yeah,
one.
I
Yeah.
feel love,
Uh-huh.
love, love.
The
Giorgio
throbbing
Moroder's
beat.
machine. Yes, the throb.
Yeah.
And then Heaven Knows from the MacArthur Park Suite,
Oh, yeah,
which I
yeah.
think was a 23-minute suite. And my dance partner, Michael, and I performed in a Disco Hawaii contest many years ago to Heaven Knows Just How Much I Love You. We came in
Uh-huh.
from opposite sides. I was about 92 pounds, 95 pounds. And he was a tall, skinny dude. It was a former Eartha Murray teacher, and we designed our dance. It was
Hmm.
disco. And we came in from opposite sides, and he lifted me over his head and did a spin right out of
Hmm.
Saturday Night, and then
Wow.
death dropped to the floor and spun me about 6 inches over the floor. I never fell, never touched the floor. My
Uh-huh.
skirt did, but anyway. And then we separated and we did our dance routine, and we came in third in a Disco
Oh,
Hawaii
that's
contest.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
Donna
Yeah.
Summer tells the story.
Yeah. What other, my favorite song by her is Cold Love. Do you know that
Oh,
one?
no,
It's sort of another disco
don't.
one, and it's very simple.
Yeah.
There's probably only about two lines of lyrics in
Cold
it,
Love by
but
Donna Summer. I'm gonna look it up. Go ahead.
sure.
You keep talking.
Cold
Cold Love.
Love, yeah. And so many of the songs that you were talking about, they bring back memories. The one by Cyndi Lauper. I remember exactly, where I was the first time I heard that
Oh,
song.
yeah.
Um, yeah, music. It's kind of like smells, fragrances. They bring back such memories, things that are in our heads and we're not even
Here we
aware of.
go.
Cold Love, yeah.
Cold Love by Donna Summer. Let's see if we can get the lyrics here. Do you remember the lyrics?
Uh,
Wikipedia.
walking the line. Something, something out of time or something like that.
Let me see.
And
Reviewed
then
songs.
it's
Here we
just
go.
cold love,
I got it.
cold love.
I got it. Walking the line. I'm walking the line. Treading thin ice time after time. I go for the best, end up with much less. I need the real thing. Forget all the rest. Oh, yeah. All right. Started out good, working out bad. All the sweet love turned sour and sad. A face and a name. It's always the same. So tired of playing love's foolish games. Tell me why love passes me by.
Mhm.
Cold love, cold love, cold
Yeah.
love. Tell me why. Hope in the dark, love in the light. I'll keep on looking for someone who's right. I'm out for the best. Can you stand the test? I need the real thing, no more and no less. Tell me why. Love passes me by. Cold love, tell me why. Ba 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 ba. And that's
Hmm.
it. Okay,
Hmm.
good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I have
yeah.
to listen to
She
that
was so
one.
great. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
she
great.
was.
Oh, you mentioned Me and Bobby McGee, right?
Yes, yes.
And that was written by Chris Christopherson.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the amazing thing about Chris Christopherson is, he became so known as a songwriter and a singer, of course. He went to Oxford on a Rhodes Scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
He's so smart, you know.
Brilliant. Yep.
Yeah, and a nice guy from what I've read
An
about
actor
him.
too. An
Yes,
actor
that's
too.
right. That's well, yeah. You mentioned Streisand. Wasn't he with Barbara
Yes.
Streisand in
Yes.
what's that movie? Uh,
Oh,
I can't remember now. I mean, it's been remade a
stuff.
number of times.
Many Lady Gaga did it with
Yes,
yes, with Cooper.
that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
What's the name of the movie?
A
So
Star is
the
Born.
Star is Born. Thank you
Yes,
very much. Oh
yes.
boy, we're going up memory hill
Up
today.
memory.
We're trudging. Well, listen, I want to move on to the next segment where
Sure,
I'm going to pick three or four of the OTT over the top topics and ask you, and then I'll give my own
sure.
answers. And then we'll move on to some say what wacky stories. So, first one is what powers you, Mark? How do you start your day? A drink, a food? What time of the day? What gives you the energy to go and be you all day?
Oh, I would say, and I what I'm going to say, uh, it's not a sad thing. Like I'm very aware that I and everybody we're going to be gone at some point,
Oh,
and we don't know how much more time we have. Like, I could have a stroke tomorrow,
oh no, we don't talk
on my
about
hundred.
that here. No, we don't.
Yeah.
We won't do. We don't. What's your happy drink? What's your happy drink or your
My
food
happy drink, a
or your
banana
food?
milkshake. Banana milkshake. I love banana milk.
Mark, stop that. Stop that. That's mine. How do you
Okay.
how do you make yours?
I've got one of those a certain kind of blender where you don't put it in, like you don't put it into the blender. The blender goes into the drink.
Okay.
Forget what it's called. Uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and it has to be lots of bananas. Um, and I put a little vanilla into it,
Mm-hmm.
some sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And I tell myself it's good for me, you know.
It
It's
probably is because the banana will help keep you from having any cramps in your
yeah,
leg. We know the
yeah, the
potassium.
magnesium in it. Yeah,
I make mine in a personal blender, the kind that you have the plastic cup with the
yeah,
measuring on it, and you fit it into a little machine.
yeah,
And it doesn't have an on-off switch, it has a pulse button.
yes.
And I've gone through about five of these over the years.
Hmm.
First, I had one red, then one white, then one black, and now I'm on a red one again. And I put in about 8 ounces of 1% milk or
Hmm.
2% milk,
Hmm.
whatever I bought that week. I put in most of a banana. If it's a small, medium-sized banana, I'll put the whole berries, a handful
Hmm.
of those to
Hmm.
make it cold. Then I use instead of sugar agave syrup, raw agave,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
it's comes in a bottle. It looks like maple syrup, but it has a
Uh-huh.
different consistency. And I keep it and I just squirt it in a little bit. And then sometimes I'll put in some dry cocoa powder, even with the
Hmm.
strawberries.
Hmm.
Once in a while, if I'm really feeling wicked, I'll put a little bit of vanilla ice cream in it, but I'm
Yeah,
not going to admit to
a
that.
treat.
And then I pulse it for off and on for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then I take the plastic top off and
Yep.
rinse that out. And then I have a reusable straw with somebody said they renovated or reinvigorated the pipe cleaner industry because the plastic straws,
Yeah.
yeah, I wash them out, clean it out, and I drink it and I bring it here in my office and I drink it. And that's
Yeah.
my breakfast. So it's a banana
Yeah. Yeah.
sugar
My
thing.
wife makes smoothies, but she puts green things in like
Yeah.
kale and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's not my cup
She
of
can
tea.
keep the kale. That's
Yeah.
fine. I've tried that. I've tried spinach and no, it
Yeah.
just doesn't do it for me. Second question.
Mhm.
Let's see. Vacation favorites. You've traveled around the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your favorite past and your top three past and what would you like to do next? Where would
Okay.
you like to go?
Well, I had a great opportunity to go to Mauritius, which is part of Africa. It's a
Hmm.
small island off Madagascar, which is a larger island. And I went there it was kind of weird. It was for a medical conference. Everybody that was there were physicians. They invited me because at that time I was working at university about educational technologies. So they wanted me to talk about what educational technologies they could use with their students. And Mauritius is this is astonishing place, like perfect weather, beautiful people. It's got a really interesting history because originally that's where the dodo bird was. On Mauritius Island. The Portuguese, I think, were the first people who came to it, and then they left, and then the French came. I think the British were involved, and then a lot of people from China and India came. So you've got this fusion of cultures, and when cultures come together, really good things happen, I think. It's like Vietnamese food, the original Vietnamese food plus
Hmm.
the French influence. So the food in Mauritius is amazing. And it was wonderful at night to be able to look up and see, the southern hemisphere of the stars and constellations that I had never seen before because, it's south of the equator. That was that was an amazing experience to be able to go there.
How did a medical conference invite you to talk about learning? What in your learning, your bio, your credentials led them to say, we want Mark M to come and teach us about learning? I'm very
Yeah.
intrigued. Can you give me a little more?
Well, I don't know how they found me, but I think the main thing that they were interested in were these things that are called clickers or personal response devices, and
Mm-hmm.
they're used in students use them. They're little. They look like a remote control for a TV, and when they're used effectively, instructors, professors, as they're teaching, they can put up a question, a multiple choice question,
Mm-hmm.
and generally they have students use their clickers to respond. Uh, and then the instructor shows the responses, 40% got it right, etc. And then the students go into small groups and they talk and they sort of teach each other. And
Mm-hmm.
then they use the clickers again to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Almost always the responses have improved because students are pretty good at teaching each other. Um, with professors, there's something that happens. It's called uh, not academic bias, expert bias. Um,
Mm-hmm.
let's say a physics prof. Why did the physics prof go into physics? Because he or she or they have a mind that can
Mm-hmm.
understand and comprehend that. And then they study it do a PhD, takes
Mm-hmm.
7 years. It's easy for that person to forget how hard physics might be for students.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really good to get students to teach each other because maybe each one, understands 30% of a problem or an issue. So I think that's one of the most effective ways of teaching is a social. It's called social constructivism,
And that's
where
what
you're
you
doing it
brought
with
to
other
this.
people.
That's what you brought to this conference, the
Yeah,
concept.
yeah,
I'm impressed.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was wonderful people there. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Um,
So where do
and
you want to go? Where would the next places you would like to go?
Well, my wife and I got back from Manitoulin Island just 10 days or so ago. And Manitoulin Island is in Lake Huron. It's just across from Michigan. It's the largest freshwater island in the world. It's so big that it has lakes on it, and those lakes have islands in them. So it's
Mm.
like a Inception sort of islands within islands. And my wife's mom has sort of an old cabin there, and we just love going there because it's what's the word? It's rustic. Like we don't have running water and stuff like that. We only recently had electricity put in, and you're away from everything. It's a 3-minute walk to the shore of Lake Huron. There's a river that runs behind the cabin. It's just an amazing place. So this summer we're planning on going 3 more times. For 18 days is the longest that we'll be there. And
Mm.
I like to go there and write. Um, yeah, it's a magical place,
That's lovely.
Manitoulin Island.
You're bringing back a memory. I was dating somebody from Yale University when I was in college. We
Hmm.
ended up getting married,
Mm,
and he had a classmate whose aunt had a log cabin near Lake Champlain,
hmm.
and we were invited. There were four students. I was the only girl. I had to get permission from my parents to go with this person, and I'll leave names out, and his college classmates, and we went to Expo 67 in
Yeah,
Canada, and we
yeah,
went
yeah,
across the border, and then we'd come back to this woman's.
yeah,
Her name was Cax,
yeah,
and KX, and we'd stay in her log cabin on
yeah,
the lake, and then we'd drive back across the border to go to the
yeah.
expo. In it must have been in
In
where
Montreal,
was
I
it?
think, wasn't it?
Montreal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Montreal, and it was a lovely, lovely trip. But we stayed
Hmm.
in a log cabin on her
Hmm.
property, and
Hmm.
it was you brought back a memory. Those were so long ago. I toured Europe as an 18-year-old before college. My parents
Yeah,
funded a tour for me with a group of young ladies and a older woman who was a teacher who was paid to be the escort or the guide.
yeah.
And
Chaperone.
I lived with a French-Swiss family in Neuchâtel,
Mm,
Switzerland,
hmm.
for a month and learned how they eat and how that I studied at the university. And then we
Yeah,
went to Copenhagen, we went to the Tivoli Gardens, we went to Italy, we went to London, we went to Paris,
hmm, hmm.
and it was quite a tour. So I had my fill. Later on, I went to Paris with my daughter already many years ago. I've been to Canada a few times, but
Hmm.
I'm not much on travel anymore.
Yeah,
To me, a big excursion is going to the supermarket once a week, three
yeah,
miles away and talking to people. That's about it. But I don't have any aspirations to travel anymore, but
yeah.
I did enjoy, and I did get one of those big Quest headsets a couple of
Oh,
years ago.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
very heavy now, but I did world tours on that as well. It's
Hmm.
not the
Yeah,
same, but I was
yeah.
on a double-decker bus going to London, and I was on
Hmm.
a ski lift over a beautiful diamond sparkling lake in Switzerland,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I did those kinds of tours, and
yeah,
it was very interesting. So
yeah, yeah.
virtual
Yeah,
tours.
virtual reality is an amazing thing.
It is. Some of the videos that have been done are just one, and
Yeah,
you have a guide taking you
yeah,
through, and you see real people who are there, who are
yeah,
photographed as part of it. Okay.
yeah.
Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We got a problem here. Hello? Yeah. Okay. Oh, Steven Spielberg? James Cameron? Quentin Tarantino? Ron ha Robert Zim Francis Ford Guy Rit no, Chris Nolan? What? Lauren Michaels? Aaron Sorkin? Shonda Rhimes? Listen, you're all gonna have to take turns one at a time because I'm here on my Cool Dude show with Mark M, and this is very confusing. You want him to pick who's going to make a movie or a TV show about his life? You want him to pick, is it going to be action, drama, fantasy, musical, romance, comedy, sci-fi, time travel, or thriller? You want him to pick the title and the actor to play. Okay, thank you, all you wonderful, brilliant, smart people. I have to go now. I'm going to work with Mark, and we'll get back to you. Goodbye. Okay, I'm sorry for the interruption, Mark.
No
They
problem.
they heard about you. They've been watching the show for the past 49 minutes,
Yeah.
49 minutes and 27 seconds, and they said this Mark M is just a marvelously interesting person, and we want to do a story.
Yeah.
Forgive me, I did improv years ago, and I still enjoy that. Surprise. Okay, so who do you want to direct? Will it be a film? Will it be a one-time TV special? No, documentary.
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
it be a limited series? Would it be an ongoing, like
Hmm.
have a five season
hmm
arc? What would you
hmm
like? And who's going to direct it for
Well,
you?
you mentioned Christopher Nolan or Chris
Hmm.
Nolan. You're on first name basis with
Oh,
him.
I am. I definitely. He comes on the show all the time. Yes, go
And
ahead.
I really like his movies. And he had one that came out probably 20 years ago now called Memento. And it was about this man who had lost his long-term memory, and so
Mm.
he can only remember things for like 4 minutes, and he's trying to solve the murder of his wife or something like that.
Ooh, ooh,
And
ooh.
it's ingenious. And if I recall correctly, it's told in reverse chronological order. Um,
Ah.
which I love. So I would choose him because I really like movies that play around with time and memory and,
Hmm.
go back and forth in time. Um, so I think that would be who I would choose. Um, who I would get to play
Wait a
me?
minute. Wait. What's the title? First, what's the
Oh,
title?
title.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Oh,
how about
a boat. There we go. The Canadian who refused to
yeah,
say he says
yeah.
a boat. Eh?
What about This Is My Life, eh?
That's it. That's it. This is my
Yeah,
life. Eh?
yeah,
You
yeah.
want an alternate title? Go ahead. I'll let you take another alternate
Um,
title.
I think it would have to be something to do with memory or time. Um,
I've had the time of my
how about
life.
remembrance of things good and bad?
Sounds like
You know?
Proust.
Yeah, yeah, playing on Proust.
Remember if things past.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah.
things past.
And he starts with biting into that cookie, the Madeleine. For me, it
Mm-hmm.
would have to be me biting into some poutine, because
Okay.
I'm Canadian. Yeah.
Okay. And who would play you?
Oh, well, one of my favorite actors is Brad Pitt. I think he's
Oh,
so good, and he's almost the same age as me. I believe he's like a month younger than me.
no.
Yeah, yeah. I admire him. I think he's a good guy. There's stories about some things that he maybe shouldn't have done, but
Never mind.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it would be anybody who is under the microscope like that. There's going to
Hmm.
be times when people are not at their best.
Or people think you're not at your best,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
right?
So yeah, I really, really like Brad Pitt. My favorite movie is I think what was it called? Hmm.
Give me
mm,
an idea. I'll look it up for you.
yeah,
I'm
it's
the I'm
it's
the
the one
researcher
one
today.
he did with Leonardo DiCaprio. And it was Quentin Tarantino directed it. Shoot, what's wrong with my brain?
Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio movie. We're talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes, yes, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
They
It
also
sort
did The
of reads.
Counselor and The Audition. You want Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Okay.
Yep, yep, yep,
2019. Okay.
yep, yep. I think he's so great in this. So is Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie. I've watched
Okay.
it like 5 times, but apparently can't remember the title.
Would somebody play your wife or one of your children? Or
Oh,
I
hmm.
don't usually ask this question. You could think about
Yeah.
that.
Um, there's
I'm going to
remember
call
the
Brad
show
Pitt right now and ask
remember
him.
the show Desperate Housewives?
Who could forget it? It
And I
was
think
life changing. It was
there was
culture changing.
one of the women on that show. She was Latina. I can't remember her name.
Eva Longoria.
Oh, yes, yes, and she kind of looks like my wife.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and my wife
Beautiful.
speaks Spanish. She
Okay.
spent time in Colombia.
Eva Longoria does a documentary, travel and food documentary for, I think, CNN, and she's been doing that for the past couple of
Oh, is that
years.
right?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, yeah. And
yeah.
she was married to a basketball player. I think it was Tony Parker, and I think that's long gone.
hmm
But yeah, she's very present and accounted for and doing a lot of commercials as
hmm
well. So look her
hmm
up. Yeah, she's around. So she would play your wife. So it's a
Yeah.
day. What is the name of it again?
Remembrance of things good and bad.
That's very provocative. Okay. Mine would simply be a musical starring Reba McEntire because she's much redder. She's orangey compared to
Hmm.
me. But
Hmm.
Bette Midler, people have suggested no, not. Although I don't know, maybe. But Reba McEntire, I like her style. She's got a new show called
Yeah.
Happy's Place, a bar that she inherited from her father, and then her half sister she didn't know about shows up, and they're from two different cultures, and
Mm-hmm.
it's in good cast and it's very well written. It grows on you after a while. Music, mine would be a musical comedy, and it would be called either Girls Just Want to Have Fun or She Works Hard for the Money. One of those.
So
That
both
was
good.
it. And it might
Reba
be a,
McEntire is,
oh,
is one of my favorites. Like she wrote and sang
really?
Red Dirt Girl, right?
I don't know that one.
Yeah, yeah, and it's beautiful. I saw her in concert. She came here 10 years ago or so. Amazing.
Hmm.
John Prine too is another one I love. Just
There you
amazing.
go. So we've
Yeah.
taken care of our movies, our travel, and our super how we start our day. So now we're going to go to the say what? Can you say it that way, Mark?
Say what?
No, no, to say what?
Oh
Raise
God. Say what?
beautiful. Hey,
Soprano.
hey, hey. Okay, good. Yes, we got a little soprano in there. So I'm going to let you share the screen. I've cleared it for you, and
Sure.
let's do three or four brief, whatever you want to show us,
Okay.
unusual things, and then I'll
Okay.
do mine, and then we'll close it out. So go ahead.
Sharing the screen here.
Yep. I'll tell you
Okay.
when we see it.
There.
Not yet.
First of all,
Here we go.
there. I'm sharing the cover that
Wow,
I mentioned of my book that's been
that's
republished in the third edition.
gorgeous.
Covered Love. Yeah, this is from a painting from 16th century or something like that. I
Did you
forget.
have to get permission to use the painting?
No, because it's that old that it's in
Okay.
public domain. Yeah, it was a Dutch painter. I can't recall who it is, but it's kind of creepy, but it's so sumptuous as well. Just all these different
A
kinds of
little bit.
foods.
It's intriguing. The colors, the copper down
Yeah,
at the bottom, and the lemon and the onion and
yeah.
the ducks. Oh my goodness, the rooster, the what is that big thing with the spots
I
on it?
think
Is
it's
it a
either
peacock or
a
a
pheasant
peacock?
or a peacock. I
It
think
looks
the
like a
tail.
peacock feather.
Yeah,
Okay, interesting. And that's oil. I think that would be an oil with
yeah,
the
yeah. It is. Yeah,
fascinating. Whoever did that for you, it's gorgeous.
yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
And then another thing, like if I click on this,
Yep.
can you see that? Man's
Not
little toe is disappearing.
not yet.
Okay, okay. How will I do this? Okay, stop sharing this.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
will share again.
Go to the next.
Uh, here it is. Okay,
Okay.
sharing that.
Yes.
You see that now?
Tell us about it. Yes, we see it.
Okay, so one of the books, yeah, I mentioned this. One of the books I wrote was about how people at the ends of previous centuries wrote about their centuries, the end
Hmm.
of their centuries. And one of the things that happened at the 19th century was kind of parallel to the end of the 20th century. The 20th century, everybody was worried about Y2K. Oh, is this going to be a disaster? Stuff like that. At the end of the 19th century, that was Charles Darwin, was getting to be quite well known, his theories of evolution and things like that. But people also began to think about, well, maybe there's not evolution, maybe there's devolution, kind of going back.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so there was concern that because people's jobs were changing, they would start to devolve. So this one is for Man's Little Toe is Disappearing. A writer in the Atlantic Journal Record of Medicine is convinced that the time will come when mothers who play This Little Piggy Went to Market with their babies will have to omit the little pig that cried, wee, wee, wee. The little toe, he says, is degenerate and must go. After quoting numerous cases where organs once dispensable have disappeared in the march of progress, such as the hairy coat of man's simian ancestors, blah, blah, blah. It goes on to that, the appendix,
That's
stuff like that.
amazing. And this was in your book?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of we pulled a lot of
Wow.
stuff from newspapers from
Wow.
1899,
Show us
1799 as
another
well.
one. Show us
Yeah.
another one.
Okay. Let me
And that was 1900, December 30th, the day
Yep.
before your birthday many
Yeah.
years later. There
Yep.
you go.
Okay. So I'll stop sharing this again.
Okay.
Whoops.
It's all
Okay.
right.
So
Find it.
now I'll find
It's working well.
just okay. So here we are. Okay. I think this is an interesting one.
Okay.
Uh, okay, so sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I guess I'll share my whole screen. That seems to
Sure.
be what it wants to do. Um,
There you
so
go.
This one is more recent. It's from let's see,
What?
meteorite strikes Sylacauga. I don't know how the name of that place is
Good enough.
pronounced. And it amazed me for a couple of reasons. First of all, that it happened, and then also because apparently it rarely happens. Meteorites are always falling to Earth. I mean, you can go up, you can go out any night on a clear night, and you can see meteors streaming through. I mean, meteorites, the ones that make it to the ground, are more rare. But of course, usually they land, where there's no people around. But can you imagine, you're sitting in your chair and all of a sudden something comes crashing through your roof, and
No,
it's a meteorite. It's a piece of space, a piece of the
no,
universe.
no.
Yeah, I really, really like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Another one?
Yeah, another one. Sure. Show us a
Okay.
couple more. These are
How
short.
about oh, this
Bicycle wheel? Okay.
How about this? Oh yeah, this is interesting.
Oh dear.
Where someone, well, the headline: "Corpse spoils the wake, refuses to stay dead," and in New York, June 16th, an hour after she had been prepared for burial today, Mrs. Rebecca Sensp sat up in her coffin. Physicians were summoned by the women's children and relatives this afternoon, and at 5 o'clock, after she had suffered a paralytic stroke, she was pronounced dead. Ice was packed around her body and candles were lighted. Neighbors who came in to console the women's children were standing about the coffin when the body stirred. Mrs. Sensp sat up and asked for a drink. Physicians said that she would recover.
I wonder what kind of drink she asked for, Mark.
Yeah, yeah. Well, a
A
pretty strong
bourbon
one.
on the rocks, please. Oh
Yeah.
my, do another one. Do another
Okay,
one.
there's one that kind of relates to this. This one, yeah, it's kind of small maybe on your screen.
Okay. No, I can
But
see.
this one, there was a real worry back in the 19th century of people being buried alive, like people seeming to be
Mm-hmm.
dead, being in a coma or something like that, and being buried alive.
No, I
And you
can't
know
look.
the phrase, what is it? Bell, Saved by the Bell, right?
Mm-hmm.
People think that it goes back to boxing, but I don't think it does. There was this time in the 19th century where when people were buried, if they were really worried that they might be buried alive, a kind of pipe would come down into their coffin, and there would be a bell at the top above the ground. And then if the person was not dead and came to, they could pull the little thing on the bell and make it ring. So they would be saved by the bell. So
Do you have any happy ones?
yeah, I do.
Get
Uh,
that one off the
how about
screen. Let's
this
see.
one?
Yes, the bicycle one.
Bicycle ball. Yeah, this is not from
Oh,
1899. This is from earlier than that, 1886 or
oh,
something
I
like that.
love it.
And bicycles were becoming really, really popular. They started with what was called the penny farthing, the one really big wheel, and then the
Yeah.
small wheel. Those were kind of awkward. And then they developed, bikes more like ours now. But they were so popular that people tried having bicycle balls, where they would
Do you remember this
dance. Maybe not
song?
dance, but they would swerve around each other in graceful ways to music.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer true. I'm
Yeah,
not crazy over the likes of you. It would be a something carriage. I got proposed in marriage. We would be sweet. I'm on the seat of a bicycle built for two.
exactly.
I
Yeah,
killed that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Oh,
A tandem bike.
you're supposed to join me in that one.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, this is so charming.
Yeah. I
Oh,
don't think it caught on, but it's a nice idea to try.
it's
Oh,
charming.
there was my A. A nice
You
idea
have
to
to have
try.
very, very in control people to be in a ballroom with a bicycle with people
Yeah.
that close by.
Well, and wearing that kind of dress, can you imagine?
I can't. I can't. We don't know what's under the dress though.
Yeah.
We know where the pedals are. Anyway, this is charming. Okay, let me share a couple of mine. I
Yes,
don't know if
please.
I could hold a candle to. We got to find
I'll
out where
stop sharing here.
we have to
Okay.
find the etymology of hold a candle, don't we? That would be an
Oh
interesting
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Let me get us back here. Okay, I'm going to share mine now. Let me go in my. Okay, this is an interesting one. I hope you find it interesting. I'm going to share my screen and let's go to screen one and let me see if I can hide some of my stuff on my desktop here. Okay, the word lorem ipsum. A lot of
Yeah.
people may not know that, but it was used, it's a Latin-esque phrase, Mark. It's a
Hmm.
placeholder or dummy text and typesetting, and it was used for previewing layouts. And if anybody like me uses Photoshop and you go to put a text box in, it will automatically populate it with lorem ipsum.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
here's a long, you can see this. I'm going to make it bigger here. I'm going to really, really blow this up. Lorem ipsum dolor sit amet consectetur adispicing elite sed do usumo. And I'm not going to attempt to read the rest of Latin. So it was basically, people say it's all Greek to me. Well, that's where the phrase Greeking
Hmm.
came from.
Hmm.
And that's
Hmm.
another phrase from typesetting and from filling in space. Printers would use sections of classical work to make type specimen books to demonstrate different fonts. And the exact origin is unknown, but it came into widespread use in the 1960s, not that far away,
Hmm. Hmm.
when the typeface manufacturing company Letraset, I remember,
Hmm.
chose the passage for pre-printed transfer sheets for the ad industry. Fast forward to the 80s, and the Aldus Company Corporation, Aldus PageMaker, made PageMaker. I used that for my first layout program. Used lorem ipsum as part of its word processing software,
Hmm.
adopted for its word program, and it took off. Where did it come from? 1990s. Latin scholar and Professor Richard McClintock traced it back to a passage from On the Ends of Good and Evil. There's a part for your book, Mark.
For
An
my
ethic,
life.
good and bad. An ethical treatise written by the Roman statesman and philosopher Cicero, 45 BCE. They searched the text for the word consectetur,
Hmm.
and they found it in the 1914 Loeb Classical Library edition of the Cicero text,
Hmm.
blah, blah, blah. And then now they use the word, and this was part of what you talked about in food, copy pasta. Have you ever heard of that, Mark?
No, no,
This is for you.
that's
The
great.
newest iteration of the placeholder is called copy pasta. Blocks of text that appear to have been copied and pasted
Hmm.
across social media and online forums. Sometimes they serve the purpose as same as lorem ipsum,
Yep.
giving the brain something. And your brain isn't supposed to read; it's supposed to look at the format
Hmm.
and the
Hmm.
fonts. It's a kind of an internet joke form of the term of the game telephone, the whisper game. The nonsense text is just nonsense. And this was
Huh.
written by a young lady named Mandy Brownholtz, who is a managing editor of Cream, CREM magazine. Thank you, Mandy. And let's go to my second. The oldest recorded recipes apparently date back. Well, this is perfect for you. I didn't know
Hmm.
you were talking
Hmm.
about gastronomica. 3,700 years. Clay tablets that were written with cuneiform. Are you familiar
Hmm.
with the word, Mark?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Cuneiform is wedge-shaped characters
Yeah.
in ancient writing systems of Mesopotamia, Persia, and Ugarit. I don't even know where that is.
Hmm.
Survived impressed on clay tablets. At first, they were thought to be medicinal text about medicine
Hmm.
until the 1940s. An Assyriologist named Mary Inda Hussey proposed they were cookbooks,
Hmm.
but nobody believed her.
Hmm.
Then along came French Assyriologist and chef Jean Bottero, a man, I won't underscore that anymore, confirmed they were preparations for stews and broths. And one of them, Mark, has 24 stew recipes from
Hmm.
pigeon, mutton, or lamb, offal. We
Hmm.
won't talk about that.
Hmm.
Turnips and beets, and a poultry dish.
Hmm.
Others feature meats from stag, gazelle, young goat, squab, and a fowl called taru.
Hmm.
Man marveled at the sophistication of the early cuisine, but he couldn't replicate the recipes.
Hmm.
In 2018, we're moving ahead here by what, 20, 40 years,
Hmm.
Harvard scholar Gojko Barjamovic convened a team of culinary historians, chemists, food chemists, and cuneiform experts, and they actually went into the 2019 Lathams or Lapums
Hmm.
quarterly publication with 4 recipes for a vegetarian stew, a blood thickened broth. I'll pass on that one.
Hmm.
A lamb stew, and I don't eat red meat, and a leg of lamb and beet stew.
Hmm.
And each recipe has original script translations with instructions for contemporary. And this was done through the Yale Babylonian
Hmm.
Collections. Interesting?
That's amazing. You know?
I did
Yeah.
not know you were going to be taught. I just picked these late last night. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And the last one is, whoops, you may eventually, they are growing, bioengineers are growing, producing high-end clutches and totes with T-Rex skin grown from fossilized remains
What?
using collagen from the king of the dinosaurs that lived 68 million years ago in North America and Asia.
Hmm.
If successful, the project will be the first example of leather developed from extinct species. The lab-grown material will be biodegradable, yay, and structurally identical to traditional leather, so it'll feel good, and ethically sound. Doesn't mean it's going to have an echo. A $500 billion leather goods market will be $855 billion by 2032. Scientists can, in theory, get collagen gene sequences from any animal. And companies such as Geltor and Modern Meadow have made leather-like materials from other things, very expensive, by the way. In the meantime, while scientists are preoccupied with whether they can make dinosaur purses, fashionistas have to think about whether they should buy them. So this is just a mark. Interesting? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it is because I remember reading a couple of years ago that nobody knows what color dinosaurs were. Like, was a Tyrannosaurus brown or gray or yellow? I mean, nobody knows. But maybe if they can recreate this, maybe the color gene will be available to them as well.
Maybe it will indeed. So those are my three stories. I'm glad you enjoyed them. I
Oh,
didn't
I
pick
love
them
that kind
for
of thing.
you, but it turns out they were perfect for what you shared as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, and the lorem ipsum being traced back to Caesar. One of the things I when I studied Latin, one of the things that surprised me was the way that things are pronounced. Like Caesar himself would have called himself Kaiser, and Cicero would have been Cicero, and what Caesar, who was a general. He's supposed to have said "Vini, what is it? Vini, Vedi, Vici," right? But
Mm-hmm.
he would have pronounced it "Winnie, Wedi, Wiki," because
Really?
D's back then were pronounced like "wuh." Yeah,
Interesting. Well, I have a question for you, and
yeah.
I'm not going to answer this because it's a dude question. Let's say a young man sees you on the show here,
Uh-huh.
or somebody's mom or dad or
Hmm.
grandma or aunt or uncle or sister or brother or teacher, anybody, and says, I think you ought to emulate Mark
Hmm.
M and learn to grow up to be a cool dude. What would your advice be? Just a little modicum of advice for that young man on how to be
Yeah,
a,
well, it's
what is
advice
it?
that I've tried to convey to my kids, and I think I have. My wife and I have done so for the most part, and it's be authentic. Like
Hmm.
literally be yourself. Don't worry about what other people think. Find your own path. It's following the crowd is never a good idea, I think.
Hmm.
It kind of shrinks a person. So it's important to be authentic, good and bad. Like there's lots of things about me that maybe are not great and I should change, but it's hard to change.
Well,
But be
that's the name
authentic.
of your story, the good and the bad.
That's right. That's
You've
right.
admitted it, so you don't have to change.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's
Good
true
answer.
of teaching too. You know, when I work with professors, helping them learn how to teach more effectively, I think the most important piece of advice I can give them is be authentic. Be your authentic self. Don't try to be a teacher that you're not,
Hmm.
because it's very uncomfortable. So
Very uncomfortable.
some people, their authentic self is very organized and
Hmm.
like an orator. Some people are more casual. You know, they just have to find themselves.
My word for authentic is real deal with a
Hmm.
hyphen. I
Be
call
the
it
real deal.
be the real
Yeah.
deal. Mark M., it
Mhm.
has been just delightful, and I might say delicious. Getting to know you. You've been on my Technology Revolution show several
Mhm.
times. I think you were on the Cool Conversation show, and
Mhm.
now you are officially a Bonnie D's cool dude.
Excellent.
I hope that's important to you. I have to take some pictures, but we'll do that after we close. So
Sure.
I'm going to put the music back on, and this is my lyrics, So You Want to Be. I wrote the poem, and my good friend and composer and singer and musician in Paris, Serge Hoffman, with two
Mm.
N's on the end of Hoffman. He writes
Mhm.
for Cirque du Soleil and for movies and for orchestras and chamber music and opera singers. And he as a we did some music videos together. His music and my art in
Mhm.
video form
Mhm.
for an online site, an AI site, which was very interesting.
Mm.
So he wrote the music and he sings the lyrics in English, of course.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's it. I love to speak with him in French. I barely hold a candle to him. So let me put the music on. Let me go to my music here and let's go to So You Want to Be. We'll dance our way out. Let me make sure everything is up here. All the systems are go. And we should be
So you wanna be
So You Want to Be.
a cool
Don't go away, Mark. We'll take pictures.
Yep.
hanging with the
Come on, let's see you dance. I didn't get enough dancer out of you.
I can swing.
Looking real. Cool and fine. Casting your net. Drum roll. Bop, 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 bop. Thank you to Serge. Thank you to Mark M. It's been a pleasure. And I met you through Mickey, didn't I?
Yes, Mickey
Mickey
Mickelson.
Mickelson. Shout out to Mickey Mickelson from Creative Edge PR in Canada. This is Bonnie D signing off. Wave goodbye, Mark. Wave goodbye,
Bye.
Mark.
It's a pleasure.
LinkedIn,
Wonderful.
Facebook. We